My name is Francis, and if you're new to this channel, consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell because I post a new video every single day. If you want to become a private client, then consider applying for a free consultation by hitting the website that's in the description box of this video. Also, I wanted to announce that my mindfulness group coaching program is now open. So if you want to be part of the class, hit the link that's in the description box of this video. In this video, what I wanted to share with you is how to stop reacting to life, how to actually connect deeper into the present moment and choose to respond to what's happening instead of automatically reacting to what's happening. Because most of us don't actually respond, we're just reacting to life. We automatically react to what is happening and we're not connected deeply to the present moment enough to make a choice to respond how we actually want. That's what responsibility actually is. Taking responsibility means that it's your ability to respond to the situation. Okay, and sometimes responding just means no reaction and allowing what is to be there. But most people aren't actually in response to what's happening, they're reacting to what's happening. So somebody walks up to them that's angry, maybe a family member, and you react unconsciously and you feed into that energy. And then you feed into the energy of that anger, and then you yourself become angry because you fall down to that vibration. So you have to be careful here because you have to realize that you actually have the ability to respond and realize that things are happening for you, not to you. Most people think that things are happening to them, not for them. But they're not actually connected to the present moment. And when you're living in the ego, when you're at the lower level of consciousness, things are happening to you and you fall into a victim. You see things like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening? I don't want this to be happening. Victim, 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 reaction, 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 reaction. Okay, and that is actually blocking you from making the choice to respond because you're automatically reacting to what's happening. There's just that autopilot response, and that comes from being unconscious. So the best thing that you can do is actually become very present to the moment. I'm going to be telling you how to actually do this because when you're at the lower states of consciousness, things are happening to you. Things are happening to you. Why is this happening? I'm a victim. But when you start to become a little bit more conscious and more aware, you'll start to realize that things aren't actually happening to you, but they're happening for you, and they're actually happening for your growth. And it's not just a mindset that's like an abundance mindset, but it's actually the mindset that you develop as you become more conscious. Because you start to realize that all these triggers that are triggering you are actually there on purpose so that you can let them go. Because life is not so much about gaining, but it's about letting go of the things that are not allowing the gains and the things that are supposed to come in naturally. You just have to let go of the attachment because the ego likes to cling and attach, which creates a lot of suffering in our life. And it's just the lack of being connected to the present moment because we're too unconsciously absorbed in our egos. We're so unconsciously absorbed in our thought and attached to every single thought that comes up that it just creates so much suffering in our life. It creates so much suffering. And this suffering is completely unnecessary because if you were just to connect deeper to the moment, you would start to see that these negative thoughts, these negative emotions, that you can simply just observe them and not identify with them to be who you are. But when we're unconsciously stuck in the ego, we tend to be absorbed into those thoughts. We take them too seriously. We take our emotions too seriously. We don't see the game that life is. We don't see that we can just be the observer and the witnessing presence of what's happening, but we get lost in the forms of reality. We don't see the formless part of who we are. Because there's actually a formless part of who you are, which is just pure empty awareness and consciousness. And when you can tap into that part of yourself, you'll stop attaching to things. And you'll see that actually when something happens to you, it's actually to ascend to a higher level of consciousness so that you can let it go. So if you lose your job, that's actually supposed to happen to you so that you can let it go and become more conscious. Because it's really easy to stay present and stay conscious when you don't have crazy things going on. You could be meditating every single day. You could be adopting this amazing habit, becoming more conscious, becoming more present, but then something goes wrong in life and you can't maintain that level of presence. You're not able to take that presence with you to everything that you do. So the key is to take it over into everything. Because if you take it into everything that you do, then things start to become a lot easier for you because you're not in resistance. When you can take that level of presence into everything that you do, things become a lot easier. So the way that you actually learn how to respond rather than react is by learning how to meditate and simply be the observer of your thoughts. And so what you can do is just disattach from what's going on. But the number one thing that you have to realize though is that it's not just about becoming present, but you have to have that understanding that things are actually happening for you. They're not happening to you, but they're happening for you. And it's not just a mentality, it's actually, you will start to see that things are happening for you because you have that awareness that, oh, okay, this is actually a trigger in my mind that is making me unconscious. And in that moment, you're not going to want to be conscious. You're going to want to be the least present to the moment. When people feel angry, when people feel worried, when people feel anxious, you don't want to let go of that. You want to cling on, you want to hold on to that anger because your ego is invested in it. You don't actually want, when somebody's angry, they don't want to let go of anger. They want to hold on to that. So when you're angry, you don't want to stay present to the moment because your ego is actually invested in the anger and your ego wants to stay alive in that anger. And then if I was to tell you some meditation techniques on how to become more present to the moment, if you're attached to anger, you're not going to want to do it that day. And then even if you do it for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, by the time you get to the 5th day, your ego is going to come back and maybe anger comes up, maybe that old pattern comes up. You're just going to say, I don't really want to meditate today. I don't really feel like it. When that's the day, you should have been staying the most present, the most conscious. So the days that you don't want to be present to the moment and you actually want to be the most reactive is when you want to be the most present to the moment and observe your reactions as they're happening. Okay, and you can incorporate this into your daily life, but it actually starts with something like a meditation habit. And the goal is to use that meditation and then incorporate it into everything that you do. But if you don't have the foundation of what it means to be conscious versus unconscious, then it's going to be really hard for you to do this. But the best way that I can explain this is that let's say you're going throughout your day and some kind of reaction comes up, you're reacting to life. Usually this happens unconsciously, automatically, and we don't realize that that reaction is there. What I'm saying is that you can actually catch that reaction as it's happening. Notice that when that reaction comes up, just become conscious for a second. You gotta take a step back and notice that reaction that comes up automatically. Notice that automatically we react to things. Notice that your own reactions and your own anger and your own guilt and your own fear happen automatically, but instead you can take a step back, simply be the witnessing presence of that and notice your reaction. And then in that noticing is actually the stopping. Because the only way to let go of something is actually to become conscious of it, because you can't let go of something that you're not conscious of. So the best way I can explain this to you, the best way to stop reacting and let go of anger and help you to understand that the only way to let go of something is to become conscious of it is with this example. So imagine somebody has really, really tight shoulders and they don't realize that their shoulders are tight. And then I walk up to somebody and I say, hey man, your shoulders are you're really tensing your shoulders up. Like just relax your shoulders and just release the tension. And they might be like, oh, I didn't even realize that my shoulders were tense until you said that, Francis. Thanks for letting me know. Because they were unconsciously, tensing their shoulders. They didn't even know that their shoulders were tense. So they're in the background of their mind, their shoulders were really tense until I told them, hey man, you're keeping your shoulders tense. They don't have to be so tense. And then they just release them. They just relax. But the only way to relax was to first actually notice that those shoulders were tense to begin with. And so in that same way, the only way to let go of reacting, the only way to let go of the ego, the only way to let go of anger and fear and guilt is to first become conscious of the guilt and anger and fear and reactions that we're attached to unconsciously. Because at some level, we're attached to those reactions. And even though you may not want to react, If I was to ask you, hey, do you want to be reacting in your life? Do you want to be a reactive person? You would say, no, I don't want to be reactive. But some part of you actually does want to be reactive because your ego is invested in that unconscious energy. So the key here is to stay conscious, stay aware, stay very present to the moment, and actually catch those reactions as they're happening. Because if you catch those reactions as they're happening, you'll notice that you can stop them before they happen, and it's almost like you become the witnessing presence of that anger before it fully controls you. You become the witnessing presence of that reaction to that, job that you might lose, instead of reacting. And then in that witnessing presence, from that spaciousness that you've created between you and your thoughts and your emotions, from that spaciousness, you actually created a separation. And from that separation, you start to see that your ego is invested in that reaction. And you see that really this reaction and you becoming conscious of it was actually meant to happen for you so that you can let it go and ascend to a higher level of consciousness. And that's when you can see from the awareness that things are actually happening for you, not to you. Because only when you're unconsciously stuck in the ego, things are happening to you, victim. And then you go to a lower vibration. But when you can shift your mentality, realize that things are happening for you, not to you, because you're supposed to become aware of it and let it go. When you start to see that your life purpose to a certain extent on the internal level and the evolution of consciousness is happening on the planet right now, where you are supposed to become more conscious, not just for yourself, but for the evolution of consciousness on this planet and humanity, you'll start to see that your ability to let go of these lower level emotions and the reactions is actually going to depend on your growth. And when you can see that your ability to let go of this depends on you growing versus going down, then you see that it happens for you. So when people say things are happening for you, it's not just enough to rationally tell yourself, yeah, it's happening for me. That's really motivational, Francis. Thank you. That's not enough. You have to see that actually it's happening for you on the level of consciousness, because if you don't let this go, you're never going to go to a higher level of consciousness. You're never going to be able to manifest what you want because your ego is attached to reactivity. You're never going to be able to create the life that you want. You're never going to be able to let go of anger, fear, guilt, worry, and you're definitely not going to manifest the life of your dreams if you're unconsciously attached to that anger. It just won't happen. You're not going to be able to manifest that life that you want if you're attached to the reactivity, the unconsciousness, autopilot reactivity. Because within that reactivity is also some identity that you hold about yourself, which is not allowing you to let go and respond. But the response comes from the awareness. Without the consciousness and without the awareness, there is no choosing of response. If you have a thought that says, I'm angry, I'm not confident, I'm worthless, but you don't have awareness of that thought, you then can't make the choice to observe that thought and let it go, because you don't even have conscious awareness that it's happening to begin with, just like those tense shoulders. You can't choose to respond to something that you're unconscious of. You can't let go of something that you don't even know that you're conscious of. You can't let go of a story and a belief system that you have if you're not even conscious of the fact that you have this belief system and story to begin with. You can't choose to make a response to a belief system and choose to not believe in a thought pattern that tells you you're not confident, or you can only make 5K a month, or you're not worthy. You can't choose to respond to that. You can't choose to make a response in a situation of your family yelling at you if you're unconsciously reacting to it. If you're not conscious and aware of the fact that you're reacting automatically and that you see, wait a second, this is actually an autopilot response, this is automatic. When you can take a step back, then you can make the choice to respond. Become the witnessing presence, and then just allow it to be there and let it go. Okay, the perfect example I have for you is I used to get into a lot of arguments with my family. I used to get into a lot of arguments with my mom, and then I was just arguing so much because she has a little bit of anger that she's holding on to, and I was just arguing and arguing and arguing, and I was arguing so much with certain people, certain family members, and it was just completely killing that relationship with my family. It was just killing everything. But then I realized that I can simply be the witnessing presence and choose to respond in the way that I want, and not just respond to the external, but to respond to my own internal response to it. That's the key right there. You're not just choosing to respond to the external situation. I'm saying that you can choose to respond to your own internal thinking. That's the key. When you can learn how to respond to your own internal thinking, that's really where the power comes here. That's where you can learn how to let go of the lower vibrational emotions, because you're not attached to whatever it is that you're attached to. But the only way to do that is to have conscious awareness first. Without the conscious awareness, you're not going to be able to make the response that you want when you're arguing with your family. If you're in a vicinity of lower vibrational emotion, you're going to feed into that energy unconsciously because you don't even have awareness that you're doing it. So the key is to have the conscious awareness. Do things like meditation. That's one amazing tool. But it's not just about the meditation, it's about incorporating that into your daily life and living from that space of presence so that you can choose to be more responsive. But the responsiveness is a result of the consciousness, okay? The responsiveness is a result of the consciousness, okay? I just made that up right now. That sounds awesome. I did not think that would rhyme. I don't know if it rhymes, but it kind of works together in that funny way. Okay, you can choose to be responsive when you are conscious. That's how it works, okay? So the more conscious you become, the more present to the moment that you become, the more responsive that you will be, and the easier that your life will actually become. Okay, I'm gonna be releasing a video soon on how to meditate that will be the foundation for all of this in your life. If you learn this one technique and you incorporate this into everything that you do, then your life will naturally fall into place in a much easier way and you'll respond much more. That video is going to be the core and the foundation of everything that I'm going to be teaching here on this channel, because when you can learn how to be present, learn what your ego actually is, then you're going to be able to come from a place of being more responsive, stop reacting to things. And that's pretty much it. So become more present to the moment, become more conscious in your life, will naturally become easier. You'll be more responsive. You'll let go of anger. You'll let go of anxiety. You'll let go of fear. You'll let go of the things that aren't serving you, and your life will become much easier in the process. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Once again, my mindfulness group coaching program is now open. So if you want to be a part of the class, hit the link that's in the description box of this video. Have yourself a great day and see you in the next video.